Hello, I'm Andy with the Deplorable General. On this channel we do tactical tips and tricks, guns and gear review, and political commentary. I myself am a military veteran, a security consultant, firearms consultant, firearms trainer. So I have a decent amount of experience with all things tactical. So I try to bring to you on this channel a little bit of flavor, a little bit of reviews of some gear that might be good and might be bad. I like to bring to you things like situational awareness and self-defense and the deadly force triangle and things like that. We start to discuss all of that. I also do a live show with my co-host Evan on Thursday nights out of the York, Pennsylvania area. We have about 10,000 households that we reach out to, so we have a pretty broad reach there, and we like to share some of those episodes on our YouTube channel here as well. So thank you for tuning in. First of all, we desperately could use your help in growing our YouTube presence. We've focused a lot on growing our live local television presence. We've done a really good job at it. We've grown tremendously in the past 2 years, but we haven't focused a lot on YouTube. So we really could use your help to build up our YouTube presence. So if you could go ahead and give us a thumbs up and subscribe down in the right-hand corner here. Hit the subscribe button for us, and we're going to try to get videos out at least once a week, if not more. We also have a podcast on Podbean. I'll put the link in the description for that, and that I try to do every week, but I don't always get around to it. So there are a couple on there. It's relatively new for us. We're just kind of trying it out to see if it fits our model. But if it's something that you're interested in, go ahead over to Podbean and check out the Deplorable General podcast. I think we have 3 episodes up there right now, and hopefully in the next couple days I have a 4th. We cover the same kind of stuff. We dive a little bit more into the commentary side. You know, it's hard to do reviews over audio, obviously, so we talk a little bit more on the commentary, on the philosophy, that sort of thing. So go ahead over there if you get the chance and search for, it's Podbean, search for the Deplorable General podcast, and it should come up. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I think is really important, and it is this right here. This is the Gadsden Flag. It's a popular symbol throughout different subsets of culture. So a lot of people recognize it, but they don't understand it. They don't know what it means. Actually, just recently, I believe it was last year, it came under attack as like a white nationalist symbol or something like that, right? It's not at all what it is, and that's not at all what it represents. It never has and never will. So this is not a symbol for the alt-right. This is not a symbol for a white nationalist. This is a symbol that was created during the Revolution, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read it to you, so forgive me. I think I'm an okay reader. But I'm going to read the history of the actual flag itself, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. So let's go here. So in the fall of 1775, the Continental Navy was established by General George Washington in his role as Commander-in-Chief of all Continental forces before Essex Hopkins was named Commodore of the Navy. The Navy began with 7 ships, often called Washington cruisers, that flew the Liberty Tree flag, depicting a green pine tree with the motto, "An appeal to heaven." This is according to the October 20, 1775 letter of Washington's aide, Colonel Joseph Reed, which is stored in the Library of Congress. Those first ships were used to intercept incoming British ships carrying war supplies to the British troops in the colonies, both to deprive the British of the supplies and to supply the Continental Army. One ship captured by Captain John Manley had 30,000 pairs of shoes on it. However, the Admiralty agent demanded his 2.5% commission before he would release the cargo for Washington's army, so many soldiers marched barefoot in the snow. Talk about uphill both ways in the snow. Okay. To aid in this, Second Continental Congress authorized the mustering of the 5 companies of Marines to accompany the Navy on their first mission. The first Marines enlisted in the city of Philadelphia and carried drums painted yellow and depicting a coiled rattlesnake with 13 rattles along with the motto, "Don't tread on me." This is the first recorded mention of the future Gadsden Flag symbol. At the Congress, Continental Colonel Christopher Gadsden represented his home state of South Carolina. He was one of 7 members of the Marine Committee who were outfitting the first naval mission. Before the departure of that first mission in December 1775, the newly appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Navy, Commodore Essex Hopkins, received the yellow rattlesnake flag from Gadsden to serve as the distinctive personal standard of his flagship. It was displayed at the main mast. Hopkins had previously led the United Companies of the Train of Artillery of the town of Providence before being appointed to lead the Navy in 1775. The flag of the Providence Train of Artilleries featured a coiled timber rattlesnake and the motto, "Do not tread on me," with an anchor, cannons, and the motto, "In God we hope," on a gold background. The flag presented to Hopkins as commander of the Continental Navy is a simplified version of that design. Gadsden also presented a copy of this flag to the Congress of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. This was recorded in the South Carolina Congressional Journals on February 9, 1776. Colonel Gadsden presented to the Congress an elegant standard such as to be used by the Commander-in-Chief of the American Navy, being a yellow field with a lively representation of a rattlesnake in the middle, in the attitude of going to strike, and these words underneath, "Don't tread on me." So this idea and this symbol has been used and adapted a lot of times over the years since then. Okay, the rattlesnake was actually a symbol that was created by Benjamin Franklin to represent the colonies. And the funny thing is that his first rendition was actually not a rattlesnake, it was a turkey. And thankfully, they determined that a turkey is not fierce enough to represent a fighting force. So he put together the rattlesnake. Now, the idea behind it was that a rattlesnake is a fierce predator, and the thing about it though is it doesn't attack unprovoked. It only attacks when it's provoked, and that was the whole main idea behind using the rattlesnake as a symbol for what's now our republic. Back then for the colonies. Just the idea that if you step on a rattlesnake, it will bite you. If you walk past a rattlesnake and leave it alone, it'll leave you alone. It's not a very aggressive or territorial creature unless it's provoked, right? So that was the whole idea behind it, which is a great representation of what Benjamin Franklin expected for our nation and for us to be a nation that we are a dangerously peaceful creature that's respected and will attack if provoked. It's that simple. So why has this been demonized now over the years? A symbol of such strength. A lot of reasons. First of all, there's a group of people in this country that do not like anything that this country represents currently or has represented in the past. These people want to fundamentally change the United States. That's their goal. That's what they want. They don't like anything that we currently stand for. They don't like anything that we've ever stood for in the past. These people would probably not even have sided with the crown. These people are people who believe that everything that we stand for is bad and evil. Now, this isn't everybody, of course, but there is a good percentage of the population that believe this. And these are the people that have accused this flag of being used for nefarious purposes. Now, I'm not saying that bad people haven't carried this flag, or, bad people haven't, flown this flag, or, of course. But this flag is not defined by those people. It's defined by its original intent, the spirit of its original intent, and the fact that that original intent still holds true today, or at least should. So, this is an idea, I think, and a concept that's been lost on a lot of Americans. Okay, I think that we have been a nation that accepts far too much. I think we are a nation that's been provoked and been stepped on over and over and over and over again, to the point where they take us, they being, tyranny, oppression, whoever, they take us as serious as a rubber snake. Because they've been able to put their boot on us over and over and over again, and we've never struck back. We've called out in protest. We've gotten a bunch of our other rattlesnakes together. But we've never bitten. It's something, folks, that I want you to think about. I don't know what that means to you. Sometimes I don't even know what it means to me, except I want to embody the vision of what our founding fathers had for us as a republic. And we don't at all. I mean, we're so far from it, folks. I mean, we are so far from it, and it's really sad. And I'm not quite sure where we go from here. There's not a single facet of American life that's not regulated by some degree of government. Everything from who you marry, you have to get a marriage license, right? Government is telling people that if you can't marry another consenting adult because of X, Y, or Z. I'm not here to talk about all of that, but we have to ask permission from the government to get married. Okay? We have to ask permission from the government to build on our own property. We have to ask permission from our government to drive a vehicle to get from one place to another. We have to ask permission to carry a gun to defend ourselves via a permit process. We can't eat what we want. We can't entertain ourselves how we want. We can't medicate ourselves how we want. Okay? All of those things and everything. I challenge you, if you can think of one thing that the government, some aspect of government, doesn't regulate, please leave it in the comments, because I'd like to know, because I'm willing to bet that I can tie in some way that government regulates whatever this thing is that you're thinking about. Almost everything. From the air that we breathe. Okay, we can't talk on radios over certain frequencies without a license, without permission. That's air. They're regulating the air. We can only dig so far down into our own ground that we own. We can only fly so high over the own sky that we own. Every facet of American life has some sort of regulation tied to it. Now, not all of that is being tread upon, of course. I dare say that there are some regulations out there that were really, they really had our best interests in mind, and I think maybe a lot of them did. But what a lot of them end up accomplishing, and most of them, is restriction. It's a limit of choice. It's a limit of freedom. If I want to tie together a bunch of balloons to a lawn chair and fly 1,000 feet into the sky, I should be able to do that. Why not? And don't get into the reality of why not. Okay, you know, this idea of okay, well, what about like public airplanes, and we need a driver's license because there are other cars on the road, so we have to have a metric that certifies that we're all at a certain standard. And I don't believe in that. I think that the majority of people are minimally decent. The majority of people are minimally decent, meaning that they aren't going to do things that are inherently dangerous and irresponsible for the rest of the people that are around. There are a select few people, I think, a small percentage of the people that would. And I don't believe that it is good or right to base legislation off of that select few people. It's the same thing used for gun laws. Hey, this very small percentage of gun owners do bad things with guns, so we need to restrict and punish all gun owners. We need to take away all guns. And we can apply that same theory and philosophy to all sorts of things, right? It's, you know, same thing with cars. You know, people aren't going to drive responsibly, so therefore we have to create a system to restrict the use of cars. Now, a lot of that also has to do with just making money. That's been the business of a lot of governments these days, is just bringing in revenue. I think it is a travesty that governments exist with a surplus. And what I don't mean is that they should have all this money and they should figure out ways to spend it. What I mean is that they're taking too much money to begin with. And if you look across most governments, local, state, federal, oftentimes there is a surplus. Now, that's all being tread on. Loop back around. It's all being tread on. This is all restriction. This is all the diminishing of freedom. And people will try to argue that freedom is a sliding scale. I don't believe so. I don't think that you can say that you're a little bit free, or a lot free, or mostly free. Doesn't make sense to me. How can you be mostly free? You're either free or you're not. I challenge you that we're not free. We are provided with a amount of choices that provide us with an illusion of freedom, and freedom that we're comfortable with. Okay, a lot of people aren't comfortable with freedom. They wouldn't know what to do with it. A lot of people want to be told how to live, want to be told what they can and can't do. And the reason being is because if they weren't told, they wouldn't know what to do. They would wander off into the, into the blue, right? Like sheep. And I hate using that as an analogy because I think it's overused, but it is such a good analogy. Sheep. That these people want to just remain with the herd, and if the shepherd or the sheepdogs weren't there, they would wander off and just get lost and then get eaten. So they love the idea of having these constraints put upon them and being given just enough choice to have the illusion that they're free. It's a balance. Let's see. I'm looking up a quote here. Forgive me. This isn't the one I was looking for, but this is a great one. So, this was actually Martin Luther King Jr., and it is a great quote that is, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." Demanded. Okay? I would also offer this. This is my own thought on this process. In order for oppression to exist, there has to be two parts. The oppressor and the oppressed. If one of those are removed, right, then you can no longer have oppression. If there is no oppressor, there's no oppression, obviously. If there is no oppressed, there's no oppression. So what do we do about that? How do we apply that in an action item? So obviously we could take out the oppressors. Probably not a good idea. We'd probably get our butts kicked. As romantic as the idea is of going in guns a-blazing, we'd probably get our butts kicked. So that's probably not the best idea, but it is an option. The other option is we remove ourselves from being oppressed. We stop asking permission. We just live our lives how we want to. It's funny, I learned this concept for the first time from a feminist from the 70s. I don't remember what her name was, but I was in a sociology class, and the professor showed us this video of this feminist giving kind of a speech or a seminar, and she said, we need to stop asking the government for permission to get married, for permission to work, for permission to do the things that we want to do. Instead of asking permission to marry somebody that we want to marry, let's just get married and say, I don't care what the government says. I don't care if they don't like it. I'm going to do it anyway. Now, we have to be careful with that because there are also consequences involved with these kinds of decisions. And we have to be conscious of those consequences. So I'm not saying just do what you want and there'll never be consequences. There are a lot of people that do what they want and end up in jail for it. But, or, worse, killed, fined, whatever. So we have to be conscious that there are consequences. We have to be conscious that the oppressor still exists, even if we remove ourselves from the oppression, right? And if that oppressor still exists, they have the ability to implement their oppression upon us. So we have to be conscious of that. But we also have the ability as free-thinking, free human beings to say, you know what? I'm not asking permission to get married. I'm going to marry who I want. I'm going to build what I want. I'm going to talk on whatever frequency on the radio that I want. I'm going to drive where I want. And as long as you're not hurting somebody else or encroaching or infringing upon someone else's rights, because that's the caveat there, then you're good to go. Just acknowledge that then there are consequences for that. But again, to loop back around full circle here, this image right here, "Don't tread on me," it's been a powerful symbol in our nation's history. I think Americans need to learn a little bit more about it. They need to read about the Revolutionary War. They need to read the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. And holy crap, people, you need to read the Constitution. It's surprising how many people do not know what's in the Constitution. They have no grasp or understanding of it because in their minds it's not relevant to daily life. And that, folks, is a travesty. So, start there. Pick up a Constitution. If you don't have one and want one, shoot me a message. Let me know. Go on Tactful Tactical. This is my Facebook page, Tactful Tactical. I'll put a link in the description. Go on there and send me a message, and I will send you a copy of the Constitution, because that is the best place to start. That gives you a firm grasp and understanding of what this country is supposed to look like. What it does is it opens the window, I should say, to be able to see that this country, the way it is now, is nothing like what it is supposed to look like. So, Tactful Tactical, Facebook, send me a message if you don't have a copy of the Constitution, and I will get you one. Start there. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Same way, tactical. Send me a message, and I'd love to discuss it with you. If you have comments on this, if you don't believe in what I'm saying and you think I'm an idiot, you think the Constitution is no longer relevant in this day and age, that we should just tear it up and start over, or the government should just have free reign to tell us how to live and what to do, then that's fine. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion with you. I don't censor anything. I love to have debates and discussion with people. I won't call you names. If you call me names, I don't care. But what makes this country great is the fact that people with opposing opinions can talk civilly and exchange ideas without succumbing to violence and threats and name calling. Despite what you see on Facebook, it still exists. So anyway, folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. The Gadsden Flag, don't tread on me. Be the rattlesnakes, folk. Deplorable General, over and out.